Okay, guys. So, now moving on. And today, and this is gonna have the intro on it and all that, so this is one of the videos. And I'm moving on to the homestead canning section. Excuse me, but I decided to go all the way back down to the beginning of it when I first started putting the pins into it. But I was looking for like a beginner's guide on canning and how to kind of thing. So then I found one, and it's called Free Canning Guide for Beginners. Now, I know I've talked about canning and the fact that I'm going to try to get away from it and try to go with more fermenting and that kind of thing. I have to get stocked up on the Redmond's real salt because you're going to go through a lot of salt with fermenting, so. And things that we're going to be looking at that will end up happening at some point. We're going to need to be stocked up on a lot of that stuff, so. But I'm also going to get a new water bath canner and a pressure canner. Just in case, and I'm going to stock up on my jars. I'm going to need to do that anyway. So, anyway, so this is called Free Canning Guide for Beginners. So here we go. Canning food can be intimidating if you've never tried it. But following some simple canning instructions, you can preserve your spring harvest for long-term storage. Hey, somebody has to take my dad's place in the family.
Wow.
Canning and preserving food is not as complicated as many believe. Once you try it, you'll wonder why you didn't try it long before now. Wikipedia defines home canning as a method of preserving food in which the food contents are processed and sealed in airtight containers, and it provides a shelf life typically of 1 to 5 years, although with specific circumstances can be longer. But you want to stay away from additives and that kind of thing. Really? Trying to get rid of an ad there. Alright. Canning food can be a year-round money saver, and you'll serve your family since you lose no nutrients or quality of your food. Okay, that's actually not true. The heat does kill some of the nutrients, which is why I want to try to go to fermenting, because with that, you're eating live food, which is what you want, what your body needs. So, you are making your own convenience meals or fast foods that are nutritional. Simple canning food guide for beginners. I'm having a hard time figuring out where to put my phone. Many people believe that spring canning is the only time of the year to do it. Home canning can be a year-round occasion. Canning the fall harvest and then canning venison or beef in the winter months during hunting season. So how do you start canning at home? You'll need a few simple supplies that will help you to get started. Supplies needed to get started canning food. So what do you need to get started canning? There are, of course, some essential canning equipment or supplies needed for home canning. 1. Canning jars. 2. Jar lids and bands. Or rings. 3. Canning tools, utensils. 4. Canner, water bath, and a pressure canner. And 5. A good home canning book. The best one that I've seen is the Ball's Complete canning book. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. If you're hungry, go for it.
There are other surgeons, there are other
How to choose the right canning jars for canning. Using the right type of jar is critical. Some of the most popular brands are Ball, Kerr, and Golden Harvest. And Dollar General sells the Golden Harvest. Canning jars should be inspected to be in perfect condition for home canning food. They should be completely free of chips, hairline cracks, or small nicks in the rim of the sealing edge. They also need to be true canning jars. Years ago, people would often reuse commercial-grade glass jars, such as mayonnaise, peanut butter, and pickle jars. Unfortunately, these jars are not designed for home canning and are not safe to be used as such. True canning jars have gone through a heat process in order to be safe for a long-term shelf life and even against breaking. Various styles of mason jars. The rim on a canning jar is also thicker to provide a good seal area. Most commercial jar rims are thin and don't allow enough room for lids to seal properly. I know what you're thinking, your grandma used commercial jars, so why can't you? My granny did too. I'll be honest, when I first started canning and preserving food, I thought the same way. After attending classes and getting an education on canning and food safety, I've changed my mind. A great place to learn about canning food safety is on the National Center for Home Food Preservation site. That was the National Center for Home Food Preservation site. Make sure you are using true canning jars. Should get fired. In recent years, mason jars for decorative purposes have begun to show on the market. These are not safe for canning. Make sure the jars you are using are intended for home canning. Why are canning lids in two pieces? Two-piece mason jar lids have a screw band and a flat metal lid that contains a sealing compound made into the lid itself. When applying the lid, simply tighten to fingertip tightness so the band fits comfortably on the canning jar. The only purpose of the band is to hold the flat lid in place during the canning process. They should be removed for storage. My mom never did that. If the bands are maintained, they can be reused, but the flat lid is for one-time use only. That is not true. You can always inspect the rubber if it is in good condition and it still looks brand new. You can reuse them. My mom did and did not have any problems. So did my grandma. Now, by all means, if you can afford that many lids, be my guest. I can't right now. When the screw band is tightened down on the flat lid, it leaves enough give for air to escape when in the canning process, which prevents the jar from busting or exploding. That's why you're not supposed. Okay, that explains why I probably tightened some down a little bit too much. After it is removed from the canner, it will seal itself. Do not tighten the screw band when you remove the mason jar from the canner, though it's tempting. This will break. See, I'm learning things. This will break the partial seal that began inside the canner. I did not know that. Just allow it to remain loose and the flat lid will create a vacuum and pop to a good seal. Why can't you use one-part canning lids? Lids can be purchased in a couple of different versions, one-piece and two-piece. Only the two-piece have been approved for canning food for a long shelf life. I get this question, can I use one-piece canning lids for canning? And the answer is no. One-piece lids are not designed nor approved for canning food for long-term food storage. They are more specifically for hot fill hold purposes in a very well-controlled situation. One-piece lids don't allow for air to escape when the jar is under pressure, which allows the lid to seal. This can result in the jar not sealing or busting under pressure because air has not been allowed to escape. That makes sense. What canning tools do I need for canning food at home? Canning utensils are extremely helpful in the canning process. There are 3 tools specifically designed for canning food. Stainless steel jar funnel, canning jar lifter. Those are so helpful because it is really hard to not burn yourself when trying to get those out. Headspace tool and bubble remover. Magnetic lid lifter, which I need that one of those, and a stainless steel ladle. These can be purchased individually or as a set. A jar funnel. A wide mouth funnel that allows you to easily pour in sugars, liquids, foods, etc. into jars without spilling. A jar lifter. Handheld lifter with a rubber grip to safely grasp and lift hot jars out of the canner. Headspace tool and bubble remover. Can be used to remove air bubbles from the jar before placing them on the flat lid. Also has notches for measuring the amount of headspace between the food and the lid. The space is important to allow for air pressure to build to cook the food. Magnetic lid lifter. Since when you do ham can't home blah, 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 blah. Since when you do home canning, it is necessary to heat the flat lids in hot, not boiling water to soften the rubber seal. This helps it to seal the jar rim better. The lifter magnet will lift lids one at a time out of the hot water, and you can use it to place the lid on the mason jar. Wow, I cannot talk. Difference between a pressure canner and a water bath canner. 3 proven methods for canning food for long-term storage. They are the boiling water method, pressure method, and the steam method. The type of canner you should use depends on the pH level in the food you are processing. Okay, there's a chart that you can look up from the USDA. Which I might actually... I need to get a book. Need to get my book again. Okay, this chart from the USDA is a great chart for information on pH levels in foods.
How long until we have access?
Water bath canners. You can purchase water bath canners almost anywhere. I use the one that is the granite wear enamel on steel. My itches now. I'm tired. Of course, you can also buy them that are stainless steel, which works well too. Whichever you choose, it needs to be deep enough to hold your jars and allow 3 to 4 inches of water above the jar tops. I've never done that. Jars do need to be fully submerged. The water needs to be at least 1 inch over the jar lid. This is to ensure a couple of things. Some of the water will evaporate during the boiling process. Having it this deep ensures jars stay covered. Number 2, the boiling process cooks the air out of the jar, which prevents your food from spoiling. Having it covered completely ensures that the jar cannot suck air into it when it is heating up and forming a vacuum. I'll have to remember that. 3 parts to a water bath canner. The water bath canner has 3 parts: the base, rack, and the lid. The base, it needs to be deep enough to allow for 1 inch of water over the lid and then an additional 2 inches for airspace. This will help to prevent boil over. I'm gonna have to remember that. The rack holds jars up off the bottom and side of the canner as well as keeps them in an upright position when boiling.
She comes.
The lid keeps the temperature inside the canner consistent, which keeps the water boiling during the whole process. Number 2, foods that can be safely canned using a water bath canning method. Foods having very little natural acid, a 4.6 pH level or lower, can be processed using a water boiling method. This category contains the following: fruits, soft spreads, tomatoes, pickled foods, jams and jellies, salsa, chutneys and sauces, pie fillings, and vinegars. Basically anything that's highly acidic. Number 3, how to properly fill a water bath canner. And there's the... I'm sure everyone has seen one.
Or have one.
Number 1, fill the canner to completely cover the jars with water plus 1 inch over the top of the lids. Number 2, put the canner on stove eye on high. Number 3, pack hot canning jars with food according to canning recipe. 4, remove air bubbles and double check the headspace. 5, wipe the canning jar rims clean with a damp cloth. 6, put on hot 2-piece mason jar lids and tighten to finger tight. 7, place lid on and watch for water to boil. 8, begin timer once water begins to boil. 9, when timer ends, carefully remove from the heat source. 11, lift lid away from you so you don't burn yourself with the steam. I have done that and it hurts. 12, allow jars to sit for about 5 minutes in the boiling water. 13, then using the jar lifter, carefully remove jars one by one and place on a towel on the counter. 14, do not tighten the rings. I didn't know that. I've always been taught the opposite. 14, allow to sit undisturbed for 24 hours. After 24 hours, check lids for seal by pressing the center of the lid. It should be down. Label and store. Pressure canners. Many people fear the pressure canner, and they should. But with a little education, it could be a great tool to add to your homestead kitchen. My foot is cold. Pressure canners are just that. They build up high pressure inside. Sorry, I'm trying to get something under my computer to hold up the back of it. It's not working very well. Sorry, guys. Okay, they build up high pressure inside to completely cook the food in the jars it contains. This kills off any bacteria that may be on the food or even on the jars themselves. Always follow the manufacturer's guidelines when using a pressure canner. I use the Presto 16-quart pressure cooker like this one. Okay. Pressure canners are safe as long as you follow manufacturer's guidelines as well as the canning recipe in your recommended canning book. If you are not comfortable with using a pressure canner, you can check with your local agricultural extension office. Your area may have a public cannery. If so, you can take your food there for canning and trained volunteers are available to help. Number 1, parts to the pressure canner. The lid. Canner lid locks into place to the base and it is fitted with a rubber seal, safety valve, and vent pipe. The gauge. This measures the pressure inside the canner. There are 3 types of gauges, a 3-piece, a 1-piece, or a dial. It will come with your canner. The base. Holds the jars for processing and is deep enough not to obstruct the lid. The rack. Keeps the jars off the bottom of the base to allow steam to circulate all around the jars. The rubber seal. Located inside the lid. Change the seal every year. Check it closely for cracks or dry rot. The lid locks tightly on the base and then seals and prevents losing pressure from the canner. Number 2, what foods can be safely canned with a pressure canner? Foods with a higher pH or low acidic foods require a temperature higher than 240 degrees to fully cook or be pressure canned. Such foods are vegetables, see detailed list, which I'll go through and read that. Meats, poultry, seafood, or any recipe that contains these foods, such as stews and meat sauces. The National Center for Home Food Preservation recommends the following foods be pressure canned. Asparagus, spears, or pieces. Beans or peas, shelled, dried, all varieties, baked, dry with tomato or molasses, fresh lima beans, shelled, snap or Italian, pieces, green and wax. Beets, whole, cubed, sliced. The exception with beets are the pickled beets. When you do the pickled beets and you can those, you can water bath can them. Carrots, sliced or diced. Again, the exception are the dilled carrots. Corn, cream style, and whole kernel, mixed vegetables. Mushrooms, whole or sliced. Okra. Peas, green or English. Shelled. Peppers. Okay, now with peppers, like with banana peppers, your dilled banana pepper rings, obviously you can water bath can those because they're dilled. It's vinegar. Anything that you use vinegar in, you can water bath can that. Sweet potatoes, sweet, pieces or whole, white potatoes, cubed or whole, they have to be pressure canned. Pumpkins and winter squash, cubed or even pureed. Soup, spinach and other greens, succotash, tomatillos, that's good to know. Winter squash and pumpkins. Pressure canning. Packing methods. Raw pack. Fill jars with raw food and cover with boiling hot syrup, juice, or water. Pack fruits and vegetables tightly into the jar because they will shrink during the processing. Hot pack. A process of heating food in syrup, juice, or water before placing it in jars. Keep your food near boiling when filling and packing fairly loose into the jar. The baby died. Sorry, we're watching a show.
No. Maybe
4. How to properly fill a water bath canner. Fill the canner about 2 inches with about 2 inches of water. Okay, why? Really? Yeah, that's weird. Place the rack in the bottom of the canner, fill jars with food, wipe off the rims, place 2-piece lids on the jars, tighten to finger tight. Put jars inside the canner. When full, blow through the blow valve on the lid to make sure nothing is blocking it. Why did that say? Said a water bath canner. That was a typo. How to properly fill a pressure canner. Fill with about 2 inches of water. Need more water than that in the water bath canner. Place rack in the bottom of the canner, fill jars with food, wipe off the rims. Place 2-piece lids on the jars, tighten to finger tight. Put jars inside the canner. When it is full, blow through the blow valve on the lid to make sure nothing is blocking it. Place the lid on properly and tight. Turn the stove eye onto high. Exhaust steam for 10 minutes. Then place on the weight or close the petcock, whichever your canner has. Once the weight begins to giggle, slowly lower heat but not stopping the giggle. Lower heat as low as possible, but don't stop the giggle. Process for the time called on the recipe. Once the timer ends, stupid notifications, turn off heat and leave on the stove eye. Let canner sit until completely cool and then the pressure valve has gone down. When it has zero pressure, and you have to make sure it has zero pressure, loosen the lid and carefully remove it, venting steam away from you. You do not want a steam burn. If you've never had one, you do not want one. Carefully remove jars from the canner using a jar lifter and placed on a towel on the counter for 24 hours. Check the lids for seal, label, and store. Steam canning. I've never done steam canning myself. I'm not either. I'm not real comfortable speaking about it in depth. Neither am I. To learn more about steam canning, the University of Wisconsin in Madison has this preparing and preserving food at home. It's a great starting point to learn more. How does altitude affect my canning? Higher altitudes have a lower barometric pressure affecting the temperature at which water boils. What this means in both water bath canning and pressure canning, cook times must be adjusted in order to get the right temperature. This altitude map will help you with finding your elevation. You can look that up. For safe canning measures, adjust boiling water and pressure processing methods accordingly to ensure safe canning temperatures and times. Additional time or increase in temperature may be necessary. Canning food and food preservation are great ways to become more self-sufficient. Not only does it save on the grocery bill, but it is also more nutritious for your family. Do you do food canning at your house? If so, what do you store?
An awful best man. Terrible mentor. He would never abandon me, but that's a lie.
And I have quite a few pins on how to can different things. So that was the beginner's guide to home canning. And that is actually available in a printable ebook. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add this to my list because don't mind me, I'm having issues right now. I'm trying to get to my notebook and not working very well. Because I got to write down the title for this so Chloe can get it on get the intro onto it.
Hi. Come over here. You come over here, honey.
All right. Anyway, that was on canning, and I will probably still be doing canning for a while until I can get stocked up on the salt. But I'm going to be getting into free canning guide for beginners.
What? Maybe only $750. With that kind of money, we can fly south. Except we don't migrate. No,
Okay.
I'm talking actually fly.
Alright. So, I'm going to go ahead and get off from here, and I'm going to get the title on this, and I'm probably going to go ahead and work on another one, and try to get some more out there today. I still have to work tomorrow on Tuesday. I have Wednesday off. Wednesday is Chloe's birthday. So, but I will go ahead and get off from here, and I will get the title on this, and I will definitely get it uploaded by at least tomorrow. So I will see you guys on the next video. Bye, guys.